Wings of
I thought
Fire.
you will read Red Riding Hood.
What did you say?
I thought you were going to read Red Riding Hood.
Oh, where is the Red Riding Hood?
It's in your room.
You want me to get that?
Yeah, I like Red Riding Hood. It's already.
Okay. But you have already heard of this story earlier, isn't it?
Yeah, you didn't. I was not sleeping. We was just testing the story.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, now you want to sleep listening to this story.
This is the real one.
Okay. Let's see whether you fall sleepy or not. Okay?
This is a fast. I love the fast book. The fast story book will make me sleep
Really?
for 2 hours, for 5 hours,
Yeah?
for 5 hours.
5 hours?
Yeah.
What do you mean 5 hours? Okay, so you want me to read Little Red Riding Hood. Yeah, is this the book?
Yes.
Little Red. What's that? Riding Hood?
Yeah.
Little Red Riding Hood. Who gave you this book?
Alicia.
Who?
Alicia.
Oh, Alicia gave you this book?
And Aisha.
Oh, Aisha, Alicia and Aisha, yeah?
Alicia and Aisha.
So they know about this story already, yeah?
Yeah, they bring it about the Red Riding Hood.
Okay, let's
Did they
read.
bring it? Did they came a long time ago to the library?
Yeah, that's right.
Did Alicia go to a library?
Yeah, she went to the library so many times. She loves to read books.
Then how? Then I want to also go to the library.
Okay, one day I'll take you to the library.
Baba, mommy, and also me, Dada.
Yeah. Okay. So this particular story is about a fox.
The bad the big bad wolf.
Big bad wolf. Okay. It's really big. Okay.
The big bad wolf and the little Red Riding Hood.
Right. So it is a level 2 story book. So level 2 is for 6 to 7 years old. Yeah.
I can see you watching, saying the story.
Okay. Little Red Riding Hood is a girl, right?
A girl and a boy.
Yeah. So this was published and printed in India. Right. Oh, where is that? Mumbai. Okay. So once there was a little girl. Her name was Little Red Riding Hood.
Baba, he's kicking me in my place.
Where?
Here.
No, he's in his place. You are in your place.
Then why is he kicking me this here?
Oh, he has got long legs.
And he's in my place.
Yeah, come here. Don't complain. Okay, ready? So her name is Little Red Riding Hood. One day, oh, a big airplane is flying.
But it's disturbing our story, that big airplane, like the big bad wolf.
One day, her mother told her, Little Red Riding Hood, take some cake and the apple juice to your grandmother, please. She is ill. What is ill? What do you mean by ill, Divansh? Oh, you already slept. On the way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. "Where are you going, little girl?" asked the wolf. "To see my grandmother," said Little Red Riding Hood. "Where does she live?" asked the wolf. "Her house is under the 3 large oak trees in the forest." She replied, "You should take some flowers for your grandmother," said the wolf. "That is a good idea," said Little Red Riding Hood. Soon Little Red Riding Hood was busy collecting flowers. When the cunning wolf saw the girl busy, he ran towards her grandmother's house. The wolf knocked on the grandmother's door. "Open the door, grandmother," he said in Little Red Riding Hood's voice. "The door is open. Come in, my dear," said grandmother. The wolf went inside. He ran up to the grandmother's bed and gobbled her up. Then the wolf put on grandmother's clothes and got into her bed. Some time later, Little Red Riding Hood reached her grandmother's house. She found the door open, so she walked right inside. Little Red Riding Hood went up to her grandmother's bed. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have," she said. "To see you with," said the wolf. "Grandmother, what big ears you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "To hear you with," said the wolf. "Grandmother, what big teeth you have," said Little Red Riding Hood. "To eat you with," cried the wolf, and he jumped out of the bed and gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood. Then the wolf lay down on the bed and fell fast asleep. A hunter saw the sleeping wolf through the window. The wolf's tummy looked huge. The wicked wolf must have eaten grandmother, thought the hunter. Snip, snip, snip. The hunter cut open the tummy of the sleeping wolf at once. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother popped out. Grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood thanked the hunter for saving them. Then the 3 of them enjoyed the delicious cake and apple juice. The end. The end, and both of them have slept. Yeah? Oh, that was really fast. Maybe if you are joking, I'll make you sleep even faster by reading a storybook or book which you may not understand that well. So back to APJ Abdul Kalam's Wings of Fire, an autobiography. So what page number we were in page number 44. My teacher at St. Joseph's were the true followers of Kanchi Paramacharya, who evoked people to enjoy the action of giving. The vivid memory of our mathematics teachers, Professor Thothatri Iyengar and Professor Surya Narayana Shastri walking together on the campus inspires me to this day. When I was in my final years at St. Joseph's, I acquired a taste for English literature. I began to read the great classics like Tolstoy, Scott, and Hardy, being special favorites despite their exotic settings, and then I moved on to some works in philosophy. It was around this time that I developed a great interest in physics. The lessons on subatomic physics at St. Joseph's by my physics teachers, Professor Chinnadurai and Professor Krishnamurthy, introduced me to the concept of the half life period and matters related to the radioactive decay of substances. Shiva Subramanya Iyer, my science teacher at Rameshwaram, had never taught me that most subatomic particles are unstable and that they disintegrate after a certain time into other particles. All this I was learning for the first time. But when he taught me to strive with diligence, because decay is inherent in all compounded things, was he not talking of the same thing? I wonder why some people tend to see science as something which takes man away from God. As I look at it, the path of science can always win through the heart. For me, science has always been the path to spiritual enrichment and self realization. Even the rationale, not the rationale, even the rational thought matrices of science, even the rational thought matrices of science have been home to fairy tales. I am an avid reader of books on cosmology and enjoy reading about celestial bodies. Many friends, while asking me questions related to space flights, sometimes slip into astrology. Quite honestly, I have never really understood the reason behind the great importance attached by people to the faraway planets in our solar system. As an art, I have nothing against astrology, but if it seeks acceptance under the guise of science, I reject it. I do not know how these myths evolved about planets, star constellation, and even satellites, that they have exercised power on human beings. The highly complicated calculations manipulated around the precise movements of the celestial bodies to derive highly subjective conclusions appear illogical to me. As I see it, the Earth is the most powerful and energetic planet. As John Milton puts it so beautifully in Paradise Lost, Book 8. What if the sun be center to the world and other stars? The planet Earth so steadfast, though she seem insensible, three different motions move. Three different motions move. Yeah. One is rotating around the sun. Second is rotating around its own axis. What is the third one? Around the sun, around its own axis. And is it on the third? What? The planet Earth so steadfast, though she seem insensibly, three different motions move. Three different motion move. Oh, okay. Around its own axis and around the sun. Around the sun. Around its own axis. I can remember it too. I'll have to find out. Wherever you go on this planet, there is movement and life. Oh, really made me think. Where you go on this planet, there is a movement and life. Even apparently inanimate things like rocks, metal, timber, clay are full of intrinsic movement, with electrons dancing around each nucleus. This motion originates in their response to the confinement imposed on them by the nucleus. By means of electric forces which try to hold them as close as possible, Electrons, just like any individual with a certain amount of energy, detest confinement. The tighter the electrons are held by the nucleus, the higher their orbital velocity will be. In fact, the confinement of electrons in an atom results in enormous velocities of about 1,000 kilometers per second. Wow. These high velocities make the atoms appear a rigid sphere, just as fast moving fan appears like a disk. It is very difficult to compress atoms more strongly, thus giving matters its own familiar solid aspect. Everything solid thus contains much empty spaces within, and everything stationary contains great movement within. Wow! Let's read this line again. It is very difficult to compress items more strongly, thus giving matters its familiar solid aspect. Everything solid thus contains much empty space within, and everything stationary contains great movement within. It is as though the great dance of Shiva is being performed on earth during every moment of our existence. When I joined the BSc degree course at St. Joseph's, I was unaware of any other options for higher education, nor did I have any information about career opportunities available to a student of science. Only after obtaining a BSc did I realize that physics was not my subject. I had to go into engineering to realize my dreams. I could have joined the engineering course long ago, right after finishing my intermediate course. Better late than never, I told myself as I made the detour applying for admission into the Madras Institute of Technology, MIT, regarded as the crown jewel of a technical education in South India at the time. I managed to be on the list of selected candidates, but admission to this prestigious institution was an expensive affair. Around 1,000 rupees was required, and my father could not spare that much money. At the time, my sister Zohra stood behind me, mortgaging her gold bangles and chain. I was deeply touched by her determination to see me educated, and by her faith in my abilities. I vowed to release her bangles from mortgage with my own earnings. The only way before me to earn money at that point let me finish this paragraph because it is quite interesting, and after that I'll come back to this picture, these old pictures that they have gone. The only way before me to earn money at that point of time was to study hard and get a scholarship. I went ahead at full steam. What fascinated me most at MIT was the sight of two decommissioned aircraft displayed there for the demonstration of the various subsystems of flying machine. I felt a strange attraction towards them and would sit near them long after other students had gone back to the hostel, admiring man's will to fly free in the sky like a bird. After completing my first year, when I had to opt for a specific branch, I almost spontaneously chose aeronautical engineering. The goal was very clear in my mind now. I was going to fly an aircraft. I was convinced of this, despite being aware of my lack of assertiveness, which probably came about because of my humble background. Around this time, I made special efforts to try and communicate with different kinds of people. There were setbacks, disappointments, and distractions. But my father's inspiration words, my father's inspiring words anchored me in those periods of nebulous drift. He who knows others is learned, but the wise one is the one who knows himself. Learning without wisdom is of no use. So nice. Let me just read again. There were setbacks, disappointments, and distractions, but my father's inspiring words anchored me in those periods of nebulous drift. He who knows others is learned, but the wise one is the one who knows himself. Learning without wisdom is of no use. Let's get back to these pictures. यहाँ के कसको picture रहेछ. Plate 1. Oh, this is his father. So this one is father. It says, my father, Jainulabdin was not formally educated, but was a man of a great wisdom and kindness. And B was Pakshi Lakshmana Shastri, his father's friend, a close friend of my father and the head priest of the Rameshwaram temple. So a Muslim and a Hindu. South Indian Muslim and South Indian Hindu. I think this one is a sketch. This one looks to be a real picture. You think sketch is slide? Then plate 2, the locality in which I grew up. Okay, so this is a typical village house. यो त खरले छाए जस्तो छ. यो चाहिँ माटोको त्यो प्लेट बनाएको हुन्छ नि, हाम्रो तराईतिर भए जस्तो हो त्यसले छाएको जस्तो छ. यसलाई चाहिँ यसले पक्का हाउस भन्दो रहेछ. The locality in which I grew up is my house on Mosque Street. Okay, and the B बाटो रहेछ, निकै फराकिलो बाटो रहेछ. दाहिने बायाँ घरहरू रहेछ, निकै पक्की घरै रहेछ. यहाँ हाम्रो काठमाडौँतिर भएको जस्तो काठको त होइन, पक्कै पनि यो क्ले र मडले बनाएको होला. So thousands of pilgrims from great distances descend on the ancient temple of Lord Shiva. Oh, this is this temple. As you can see, it's a ठुलो temple. Very big temple रहेछ नि त यो त. त्यही भएर यो यत्रो बाटो पनि ठुलो रहेछ. यहाँ त प्रोसेसनहरू हिँड्ने, फेस्टिभलहरू हुने, पिल्ग्रिमेजको लागि मान्छेहरू धेरै आउने हैन. So that's what thousands of pilgrims from great distances descend on the ancient temple of Lord Shiva. I often assisted my brother Qasim Muhammad in his shop selling artifacts on this street. And what about this? Oh, this looks like a mosque. The old mosque in our locality where my father would take me and my brothers every evening to offer prayers. यो चाहिँ mosque रहेछ. So the mosque is nearby his house. And who is he? My brother. Oh, this is his brother. APJ Abdul Kalam's brother. My brother, pointing at the T square I used while studying engineering. Oh, engineering स्टुडेन्टहरुको इन्स्ट्रुमेन्ट हुन्छ नि. हाम्रो यहाँ नेपालमा पनि कति धेरै विद्यार्थीहरूले झोलामा झुन्डाएर हिँडिरहेको हुन्छ. झोलाभित्र अटाउँदैन अनि बाहिर देखिरहेको हुन्छ. So this is called a T square. मलाई थाहा थिएन यसको नाम. Then this picture is the plate number 5. STR Manikam inset. STR Manikam, friend of my brother Mustafa Kamal, had a large collection of books. This is his house from where I would borrow books while at Rameshwaram. Wow. This is a big house. He used to have a lot of books from where APJ Abdul Kalam has borrowed many books and read many books from there. So it's a family get-together photograph. Oh, family get-together. Yo, APJ Abdul. निकै पछिको फोटो रहेछ यो. निकै कपाल पनि फुले जस्तो देख्छ. The simple surrounding of Skiwards High School, Ramanathapuram. The words on the plaque read, oh, somewhere here on the door. Let not thy winged days be spent in vain. When once gone, no gold can buy them back again. Wow. यस्तो सेन्टेन्सहरू लेख्यो भने त आमा पढ्ने मान्छेले त बुझ्न पनि पर्यो नि है. बुझेर त लेख्यो होला. This is the group photo of my teachers at Skiwards High School. They are Aidurai Solomon standing left and Ramakrishnan Iyer sitting right. They are the best examples of the small town Indian teachers committed to nurturing talents. Fantastic. So in the course of my education at MIT, MIT भनेको Madras Institute of Technology है. It's not a Massachusetts Institute होइन है यो फेरि. So 3 teachers shaped my thinking. Their combined contributions formed the foundation on which I later built my professional career. These 3 teachers were Professor Sponder, Professor K.A.V. Pandalai, and Professor Narasimha Rao. Each of them had a very distinct personality, but they shared a common impulse: the capacity to feed their students' intellectual hunger by sheer brilliance and untiring zeal. Professor Sponder taught me technical aerodynamics. He was an Austrian with rich practical experience in aeronautical engineering. During the Second World War, he had been captured by the Nazis and imprisoned in a concentration camp. Understandably, he had developed a very strong dislike for Germans. Incidentally, किन लेखेको या incident hyphen tally किन लेखेर चाहिँ कुनै. Incidentally, the aeronautical department was headed by a German professor, Walter Rappentin. Another well-known professor, Dr. Kurt Tank, was a distinguished aeronautical engineer who had designed the German Focke-Wulf FW-190 single-seater fighter plane, an outstanding combat aircraft. यस्तो प्रोफेसरहरू हुँदो रहेछ है. So what he said was 3 of the professors he named, like Professor Sponder, Professor K.A.V. Pandalai, and Professor Narasimha Rao, one of his very favorite those who made a real effect on his education. And the aeronautical department, who was headed by a German professor, Walter Rappentin. Another well-known professor, Dr. Kurt Tank, was a distinguished aeronautical engineer who had designed the German FW-190 single-seat fighter plane, an outstanding combat aircraft of the Second World War. Dr. Tank later joined the Hindustan Aeronautical HAL, so Hindustan Aeronautical Limited in Bangalore, and was responsible for the design of India's first jet fighter, the HF-21 Marut. यस्तो प्रोफेसरहरूसित पढ्न पायो भने त अनि मान्छे त मेहनत गर्यो भने त के पाउँदैन है. Notwithstanding these irritants, Professor Sponder preserved his individuality and maintained high professional standards. He was always calm, energetic, and in total control of himself. He kept abreast of latest technologies and expected his students to do the same. I consulted him before opting for aeronautical engineering. He told me that one should never worry about one's future prospects. Instead, it was more important to lay sound foundation, to have sufficient enthusiasm and an accompanying passion for one's chosen field of study. The trouble with Indians, Professor Sponder used to observe, was not that they lacked educational opportunities or industrial infrastructure. The trouble was in their failure to discriminate between disciplines and to rationalize their choices. Why aeronautics? Why not electronics engineer? Why not mechanical engineering? I myself would like to tell all novitiate engineering students that when they choose their specialization, the essential point to consider is whether the choice articulates their inner feelings and aspirations. Professor K.V. Pandalai taught me aerostructure design and analysis. He was a cheerful, friendly, and enthusiastic teacher who brought a fresh approach to every year's teaching course. It was Professor Pandalai who opened up the secrets of structural engineering to use. Even today, I believe that everyone who has been taught by Professor Pandalai would agree that he was a man of a great intellectual integrity and scholarship. But with no trace of arrogance, his students were free to disagree with him on several points to the classroom. Professor Narasimha Rao was a mathematician. Narasimha Rao भन्ने त इन्डियाको प्राइम मिनिस्टर पनि थियो के त्यही त हैन. Maybe. Let's see. Professor Narasimha Rao was a mathematician who taught us theoretical aerodynamics. I still remember his method of teaching fluid dynamics. After attending his classes, I began to prefer mathematical physics to any other subject. So often I have been told I carry a surgical knife to aeronautical design reviews. If it had not been for Professor Rao's kind and persistent advice on picking up proofs to equations of aerodynamics flow, I would not have acquired his metaphorical tool. Aeronautics is a fascinating subject, containing within it the promise of freedom, the great difference between freedom and escape, between motion and movement, between slide and flow are the secrets of this science. My teachers revealed that truths to me. So my teachers revealed these truths to me. Through their meticulous teaching, they created within me an excitement about aeronautics. Their intellectual fervor, clarity of thought, and passion for perfection helped me to launch into a seriously study of fluid dynamics, modes of comparison, medium motion, development of shock waves and shock induced flow separation at an increasing speed, shock stall, and shock wave drag. Slowly, a great amalgamation of information took place in my mind. The structural features of aeroplanes began to gain new meanings. Big planes, monoplanes, tailless planes, canard configured planes, delta wing planes, all these began to assume increasing significance for me. The three teachers, all of them authorities in their different fields, helped me to mold a composite knowledge. My third and last year at MIT was a year of transition and was to have a great impact on my later life. In those days, a new climate of political enlightenment and industrial effort was sweeping across the country. I had to test my belief in God and see if it could fit into my metrics of scientific thinking. The accepted view was that of belief in scientific methods was the only valid approach to knowledge. If so, I wondered, was matter alone the ultimate reality, and were spiritual phenomena but a manifestation of power? The manifestation of matter? Were all ethical values relative, and was sensory perception the only source of knowledge and truth? I wondered about these issues, attempting to sort out the vexing question of scientific temper and my own spiritual interests. The value system in which I had been nurtured was profoundly religious. I had been taught that true reality lay beyond the material world in the spiritual realm, and that knowledge could be obtained only through inner experience. Very nice. बल्ल चाहिँ यसको किताबको अर्थ आउन लाग्यो. Enjoying it. So yeah, we'll continue next day. See you. Thank you very much. Bye bye everyone.